Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. In this video I'm going to share with you a new strategy that I have been developing and testing for scalping on the 1 minute time frame. Just to give you some background before we dive onto the charts and explore the strategy in more detail, I'm going to start off first by doing top-down analysis using the 4-hourly chart so that I can mark some significant points in the overall market structure. I'm also going to be using the 4-hourly time frame to get an idea of the overall trend and play of the market. And then we're going to break down that onto the hourly chart, and then finally the 1 minute chart, which is what I'm going to be using for trade execution and trade management. The idea for this strategy is that I'm going to be waiting for the London breakout session, so I'm waiting for that opening candlestick at 8 o'clock, and then I'm generally going to be trading up until roughly around 9:30, 10 at the latest. The idea being that I get a nice scalp of those moves that happen in the morning session. So let's dive onto the charts and I'll share with you the strategy in more detail. Okay guys, so I've got my spreadsheet open here where I've been recording my data back testing this new strategy, and I've been using the pound dollar for carrying this out, and as you can see so far I've done 16 different entries. So I'm going to be carrying that on today with you and just sharing you a little bit more about the strategy that I've been developing. So first things first, let's go back in time and find a point in the market where we can start taking some trades. Right, and so I'm just on the 4-hourly chart now. I've gone back to the 29th of September, so I believe that I did have back testing information for this day, so I'm going to just zip through that now. Okay, so now we're starting on the 1st of October. So as you can see, we were in this uptrend, and then we've actually been coming down in this downtrend here, making lower highs, lower lows, and lower highs and a lower low. So the overall trend has been down. Since then, we seem to have been at this awkward place here in the market where we've made this bottom, and then it looks like we're trying to actually shift trends to the upside now. As we have come up here, we've made a higher low here, and it'll be quite interesting to see if we continue going to the upside. So at the moment, I feel like scalping this will be quite tricky because there is no set overall trend. My strategy seems to work a lot better when there is a really strong trend either to the upside or the downside. But still, let's just see what happens. So after determining the overall structure of the market here, I'm going to just reiterate some of these structural points into the marketplace. So I've already had these horizontal raise place at significant points on the 4-hourly chart, and I'm going to draw out this structure point here where we seem to be having a lot of wick rejections around this area, so it might prove as a point of resistance. But judging by the fact that we seem to be trying to make this move to the upside, I'm wondering whether the price action is going to break that point, maybe make a retest of that, and then that might indicate a shift in the trend to the upside. Now we've just marked those places on, I'm just going to drop down into the hourly chart here, where we can just see in greater detail that what we've just done. And at the moment, this is the closing candle for 5, so I'm just going to open the 6 and then the 7 o'clock candle, because as per my strategy, I'm not taking any trades before 8 o'clock. And then just looking to the left on the hourly chart, I'm just going to mark this little area here, which would be the next point of potential resistance before this larger area here that we've marked out on the 4-hourly chart. And once again, referring to the hourly chart, we can see that we are in this uptrend here. So for the purposes of my strategy into this first trade, I'm going to be looking for a scalp to the long side with the trend. And you may have noticed for the strategy, I have actually included some moving averages. I've included 3 moving averages for a few different reasons actually. Basically, I like to have these 3 to be in this perfect alignment, grey, then blue, and then red for an uptrend, because that's the 13, the 21, and the 50 moving average. And when they're fanned out in this nice uptrend here, I can clearly see the trend is in an uptrend. Which might sound very simple, but it's quite important for trading, because if I see any crossovers in the moving average, it'll just help me to determine that we are just consolidating or maybe shifting in trend, and therefore it's not the best place for me to take a trade. So they're mainly for that purpose. I'm relying mostly on price action, as you can see from these points that I've marked on the charts. But still, I like to use the moving averages on the strategy for that added area of confluence to help me to make a decision for trading opportunities. So the closing candle just before the London Open, and as you can see, the moving averages in the 1 minute are not in that nice fanned out uptrend way that I'd like to take a trade. We have the crossover here and it shows indecision, so I'm going to just unleash some of the candles so that I can wait, because my strategy is dependent on a strong trend. That's what I'm waiting for. So if this was live in the markets, I would be waiting now to get a trend before I take a trade. So the first few candles have actually been selling off. Now I know from the larger time frame analysis that this is on the 4-hourly chart, this grey area, and it's probably acting as resistance here. So I'm going to wait and see what this does. If we do get some rejection at the moving averages, I will get in for a short position. And this area here, I'm looking to plan for a short below this larger of the candles for an inside bar break, because we've had this move up, we've got this wick rejection, and then we've made a small doji. So if it does actually come below this level, so I'll set the entry at 29, that would be interesting for short. I'm going to set my stop at 10 pips, which is what I've been favoring doing using pound to the dollar, because we tend to get bigger moves, so it tends to be a little bit more choppy and needs a bit more room. And I have been setting larger targets as well. We'll keep an eye on that because we have got this potential resistance here. So trade number 1, and it has actually hit my stop, so I'm going to just make a quick note of that. The 1st of October at 8:12. Okay, so I'm going to, just marking up areas of structure here, and as you can see, we have pulled back, but we have broken this trend line, and then we're making this nice bearish wick rejection of these points here. So again, I'm quite interested here for a potential short just below this candle, and I'm going to use a 10 pip stop again, and my 2-to-1 risk reward. Now this looks better than the last trade because my target is before that resistance, my stop is above this that was acting as resistance. So let's just see what happens here. Ah, there we go. Okay, so that's a nice move down. In fact, it was very close to being 3R. I'll just put the next candle down. There we go. So I could have actually got a 3R out of that, but for the purpose of the strategy, I'm risking 1 to make 2. So that was 8:33 on the 1st of October. So I would have made 2% on that, risking 1% to make 2. So that with my previous one means I'm currently up 1. I have a 10 pip stop and a 20 pip target. Short here, and this is just to mark how much it moved basically. So I would have obviously got 1.5. In fact, I'm going to take that out of this column because that's not important for the strategy, because I'm only aiming to make 2R for the strategy. So I would have hit 2R and I would have hit 3R. I'm going to go back to the charts now and just see if it would have continued on to make 4R, because if when I evaluate this data later I can see that actually I could make more money if I let the trade run longer, then that's something that backtesting can help you to learn. And yes, as you can see, it went straight down and I would have actually hit 4R as well, so I'll mark that. The entry, as we said before, was this candlestick pattern here. So it was a bearish pin bar rejecting the trend line and moving averages. So continuing on, let's just remove that. I'm going to see whether it does give any more opportunity for pullback here, but around about 10 o'clock I'd be tempted to just skip to the next day because that is the time frame that I want to use for this strategy. Okay, coming up till 9, so I'm going to just continue this on a few more minutes. And just having a quick look back to the larger time frames, we've got this big red candle here, and the closing 8 o'clock candle on the hourly chart has actually come to tap this 50 moving average, And I can see here that we have broken the 50 moving average previously, but it has recovered to the long side. So there is a chance of seeing a bounce to the upside here. Although that is a very big red candle down. Okay, so back to my dominant time frame for this strategy. So I'm looking now to see if we have a rejection of both this market structure and the moving average, which may give me another potential entry for a short. Okay, we have come up to this moving average, and then we've got this bearish engulfing candle, and there also seems to be some resistance point here at market structure. So if we can get below that, I may be interested in a short here. So I'm going to treat this like it would be a sell stop on my broker, so it would only be triggered if price went in that direction. Set it below that candle. Although I am quite expecting this to tap this market structure here before moving down. Let's just see what it does. Right, so I'm still not in the trade because price hasn't actually come to my entry here. And again, I'm still not in this trade because price hadn't come down. So let's see if it gives a, there we go, a candlestick that looks like it's rejecting this level. I'm going to check that on the 5 minute as well. Body's quite big on that, but I'm going to go for that one. I'm putting my order just below that candlestick, so that's rejecting market structure. So a nice 2R win. And again, just to make a note, it would have just hit 3R. Alright, 3R, but it would have returned up to past 1.5. So I hit my 2R target on that one, and it would have actually carried on to 4R as well. And maybe even 5R. So, yeah. So let's make a note of that one. So the entry was at 9:12 on the 1st of October. Entry at 1.2891. Risking 10 pips to make 20 pips, and I would have hit 2R, 3R, and 4R, and I would have also hit 5R as well. So that could have been a nice trade to sort of sell half and keep some profit rolling there. So again, relying on market structure here for the entry, and I'm still underneath that 50 moving average, which is what I like to see. If we got above that, I would probably be less interested in taking that trade, but I'm not basing my trade on purely just the moving averages. So 3 trades in, we've had 2 wins and 1 losing trade. I'll just see if this does anything else, but I'm probably going to skip this on to the next day because we're coming up to that 10 o'clock, which is where I would want to stop trading for the day. So there's no point me carrying on looking at data. And this red line also symbolizes a horizontal ray from the 4-hourly chart, so it's probably going to act as some resistance here that might see a bounce back to the upside. Therefore, I'm not going to take any more trades on that unless we see a nice clear break through that and then a retest and fail. It looks like that's consolidating now. So what I'm going to do is jump on the hourly chart. We're at 10 o'clock and I'm going to skip this through the day onto the 2nd of October at 7 o'clock in the morning, ready for the next day. So next day, this is where we took our trades from the previous day and hit that bottom, and we did see that jump back to the upside here. But again, we've come into this market structure resistance and it's come back down here. So I'm just updating my charts. Have a quick look at the 4-hourly here. So we are still holding this uptrend. So using the hourly, I'm not quite sure what directional bias I'm going to take because we are in this consolidation. It's been in an overall uptrend on the 4-hourly chart, but it looks like it's pulling back. So I'm going to just see what price action does with this. At the moment, we seem to be holding this horizontal ray line. So if we can break below that and get a clear rejection, I'd probably be interested in a short of that level. But on the 1 minute, it does look like we're pushing up. If it gets up above 80, that indicates to me that we're pushing up past the hourly close, which probably gives it some room to the upside until we get to this resistance here. So the first 8 o'clock candle, we've come down and bounced up. I would be interested in getting in at 80 as per the hourly candle, but it's not quite in a clear trend yet, so I'm not going to take that. So moving this on until we find a potential trading opportunity. And I'm just marking on previous areas of structure that might be resistance or target points here. We've broken this level, so it looks like we might be moving lower. And we seem to be rejecting this area here. So let's just have a look. The body's quite big for a wick rejection, but I'm going to put the entry just below it to see if it does pull back and activate that order. And again, I'm going to use a 10 pip stop here. And to our target. But I'm aware of this area. If we get resistance, I can always adjust my stop. So trade is not activated yet because we've continued up here. And it looks like, there we go. So we've pushed up, we've had this bearish engulfing bar. So I'm going to actually move my entry up a little bit here to 66 so that if we continue down, my trade will get entered into. Trade still not activated, so I'm just going to move price on here to see what happens. That was where my entry was. I'll just lower it down there just to be realistic. So it's just below this market structure. Alright, so we've broken this trend line. We've got this candlestick here with the upper wick that seems to be rejecting this point. So I'm going to place my order just below there. Okay, so we're into that. That is a huge candle. So, I can obviously see where the momentum is going with this. Let's just allow this to play out a little bit here. Okay, so this would be interesting for a long, but I want it to come down and touch this market structure really. Okay, that's a nice little candlestick here, rejecting that level. So let's have a look at this for a long above that at 20. 10 pip stop doesn't really give me enough room on this one. Okay, so it's continued down, so it wouldn't have actually triggered my entry. But we have come further down and then created this green candle here, which could be offering support. So I'm going to lower my entry now just above that candlestick. So I'm going to lower it to 16. So I still wouldn't have been entered into that trade. So the first hour of this one seems quite choppy. Just going to wait for price action to come up with its trend. Just looking back at the 15-minute chart here just to see how it's looking in relation to that time frame. Alright, so we seem to be holding this market structure level here. I've just marked on these trend lines and we have got this nice candlestick signal here which is rejecting that market structure. It's just whether I decide to take that before we've broken this upper trend line. So let's break that to the upside here. Just see how far that goes. Okay, so we would have got 4R out of that. It would have actually gone up to 3R before coming back to 1.5 and then up to 4. So let's make a note of those. So 9.14 on the second. Right. It's quite interesting because the majority of wins that I'm seeing on the pound dollar, I could have gotten 3R, so it's making me wonder whether I need to alter my strategy to extend my profit target, which would help because my accuracy rate isn't very good, to be honest. It's quite even, so if I can increase that profit loss ratio, then the idea being I'm going to be more profitable long term. And as you can see, I'm just following market structure here, editing it as I go along, just to try to reflect what I'm seeing in price. This could be a potential trading opportunity as the green candle's providing some support here. For a scalp, I'm just seeing if there's room before this resistance point, which it'd be quite tight, so I'm going to leave that one. Right, because this resistance level's on the 4-hourly chart, so I'm expecting it to be quite a point of resistance here. And we're past the time that I like to use, so I'm going to do the same again, go onto the hourly chart and skip this throughout the day. And as we can see on the 4-hourly and the larger time frames, we're still holding this uptrend, but this is acting as quite a large resistance level. So let's see if there's any opportunities for scalps in between these. So just zooming out on the 1-minute chart here, just going to mark on some areas of possible market structure. Looks like it might be making a bear flag here. So we're quite early, 6:55. Let's just skip it on. So I've just skipped it on to close to 8 o'clock to where I'd be looking to trade this. And actually, if I had gone up earlier in this strategy that day and got hold of this move, which would have been really nice. So we've had 1, 2, and this looks like the third flag pattern here. And on the hourly, we can see we're coming to the 50 moving average. So I'm thinking this bottom resistance level, together with the fact that we have already been selling off on the 1 minute, might act as a resistance and provide a bounce to the upside. So I'm just going to see what price does as I kind of continue this on a little bit. And that's quite a nice rejection there of the 50. And also that previous market structure point. So I'm going to just set my stop above that level. It doesn't quite give us room before the structure point though, so I'm going to leave that one. Okay, good job I didn't take that trade. Okay, so we might be seeing this turn to the upside here. Looking for a nice pullback. Just marking on the previous points of market structure again. And this looks like a nice bullish indicator here. So let's set a stop order just above there using a 10 pip stop and see if that's just before this resistance level, which it is. That was close. Oh, and that was close too. There we go. So it came down, found some support on the 20 and then eventually hit target there. So I could have waited for a bear entry, but it still worked out. 8.58 on the 5th. Okay, so price would have actually come back down to break even, so wouldn't have got any more than 2R for that. Okay, so I'm 6 trades in, and I think this video is getting quite long, so just to have a quick reflect on that. So 6 trades, we've had 4 wins and 2 losers out of there. But using this 2-to-1 profit loss ratio means that I would have made 8% and then lost 2%, so it would give me 6% so far. And as you can see, I'd already started kind of testing the strategy earlier on. So that makes trade 22. So I'm just going to see how it's doing so far. So I would have won 24 and I would have lost 10. So out of 22 trades, I'd be up 14%. So I'm going to carry this on and try to compile as much data really to prove the strategy. But as you can see from this little insight, it seems to be working quite well. The accuracy rate's not brilliant, but I'm making up for it with a positive profit to loss ratio. I know that scalping on the 1 minute chart can seem quite daunting. Price action is very choppy and very quick, but it is actually the way that I first started to learn trading when I did stocks and warrior trading, and I do like it. I felt that stocks were incredibly choppy. I actually find that scalping Forex on the 1 minute seems like it gives more opportunities for pullbacks, which I quite like. But I'm going to carry on doing this, backtesting it and seeing how it feels really before I start implementing this. But I hope that you've enjoyed this little introduction to this new strategy I've been working with. If you've got any questions about it or any comments, do leave them below. And if you have enjoyed it, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. And I'll catch you on the next video. Thank you. Bye.